Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the Ottercar AI Racing Series, round number 2 of Season 2 here this evening at the Circuit of the Americas here for the Shard of Texas 75. Gonna be a little bit of a weird one here tonight. Unfortunately, the full-length Circuit of the Americas was not quite in the budget here this evening, so we are running on the West Circuit instead. A little bit shorter of a circuit, 2.26 miles or 4.18 kilometers in length here this evening. Going to be turning 18 laps around this circuit. A circuit that has only opened all the way back in 2012, probably the newest track that we are going to be visiting here on the schedule out of really any of them. And this was a circuit that it was purpose built for Formula One, so we're a little bit kind of doing them dirty by bringing Ottercar here. I think most Formula One fans not really approving of the kinds of circle car chicanery we get up to here in the United States. That said, this track has hosted basically every American motorsports series and a lot of international ones as well. The World Endurance Championship has come out here. MotoGP's come out here. Of course, F1's been here. This is the track that was purpose built for them. And pretty much one of the main defining features of this track is the main straightaway down there at the bottom of the track map. 133-foot incline, or 40 meters, of course, into a hairpin that immediately goes back downhill. Generally known for being quite a difficult corner, especially in NASCAR, where we see folks going 4, 5, 6 wide into this corner when they really, really should not be doing so. That said, once again, going to have to ruin the immersion a little bit because the hotkeys are not quite working today. But drivers have finished up their qualifying attempts here this evening, and once we get them on down to the starting grid, we can take a little bit of a look at how things will be shaking up for today's race. And let's see here. It's looking like starting out on the pole here for today's event. That's going to be the number 3 car of thirds in the Shelter for Strays racing team, starting it off position number 1. Starting her outside in the 030 machine, that's going to be Ash, not to be confused with Ash, starting off position number 2. Third place going to go back to one of the hybrid development team drivers. That's going to be the 26 of Rally with their teammate of Ame Sakaramori, the other hybrid development team driver, starting it off in position number 4. Back in position number 5, that's going to be Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, in that number 37 machine, the first of the Blazed and Drunk drivers to make an appearance in the qualifying order right now. Then back in position number 6, it's going to be the other Ash. That's the driver of the number 11, and also the driver who suggested tonight's race title name, so you can thank him for that. Ash, currently the only driver locked into the championship standings, or into the playoffs, excuse me, right now. So he's pretty much smooth sailing here this evening. It's the rest of the drivers that have to figure out who is going to claim the position here this evening. Running back in the 7th spot, though, that's going to be the 21 of August, rolling it off in position number 7, followed by the Shelter for Strays driver of Pav in position number 8. Back for row number 5, that's going to be Limited Time 44 McRib, followed by Dwayne Day in the number 4, back in position number 10. Row 6 going to be consistent of that number 7 machine of Kevin 11 with the Shelter for Strays group, followed by the 38 of Madcap for the Bad Drivers organization. Jumping further back here, row number 7 going to be consisting of the 1 machine of Med, followed by the 88 of Ashley. Row number 8, the 777 entry of Sarah Something, followed by the 420 of Oh You Know, with Blue D Wolf following back in position number 17, and Chris Cox in the 69 for position number 18. Row 10, that's going to be the 818 of MS Beatus and the 800 of Deeg, followed by the 330 of Lake and the 776 of Valnar. Back in position number 23, that's going to be the 901 of Sarkin, followed by the 985 of Jeremy Elverson, back in position number 24. Then rounded out the tail end of the field here, going to be the 369 of Drop Table Roster, followed by the 666 entry of Zoe. And let's see, are the hotkeys still not working? No, they're not. All right, we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, race fans. Ignore all of the funny information on your screen. I assure you that actual race commentators also have all of this information to be playing with. But here for the start of Texas, 75, not 75 laps, not even 75 miles, but kind of sort of close to 75 kilometers, somewhere in there. We've established that race names don't actually mean anything, both in Ottercar and in the real world. That said, drivers starting to get rolling here. Got about half a lap they need to complete before the pace car will actually pull off down into the safety of pit lane. 18 laps will be the distance. And of course, the fuel tanks are limited, so these drivers will be having to make a pit stop at some point here this evening. Big question is always going to be when. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of cautions here today, so plenty of opportunities to make those pit stops without too much really to have to worry about here. But it is Circuit of the Americas. It is a track that is pretty unpopular on iRacing. It's a little bit controversial. It's a difficult track to drive, and tracks that are difficult tend to be tracks that are unpopular. Making our way down through, looks like turns 16 and 17 here, which is a little bit crazy to say that we are on one of the shorter layouts of Circuit of the Americas, and we still have 17 corners to deal with here. Sure enough, though, iRacing.com pace car is going to make a left turn down the pit lane. We are going green flag racing here at the Circuit of the Americas. Off to an early lead for thirds, followed by Rally and Ash in tow just behind as we make the 133-foot ascent into turn number 1. And there's immediately going to be contact between Rally and Ash. Everyone keeps it pointed in the right direction. The rest of the field having to check up just a bit, but otherwise it generally seems like everyone is making it through without too much difficulty here as we head down into the S's. And a couple of drivers cutting the course. Sarah Savine around, Madcap around as well. Let's take a look down here, see if we can't get a better view of things. Sarah around, Madcap down into the outside wall. Let's see if this driver's going to be able to get it rolling. Sarah's getting that car turned back around, but Madcap looks like he might be stuck down here. Sure enough, that car is not moving whatsoever. And the hotkeys still not working. There we go. Caution flag out on the speedway. Just like that here for lap 1 of competition. For the incident between Madcap and Sarah something. Let's see if we can't take a look back and try and figure out what exactly happened there. There was a lot to unpack down in turn 2, head down into the S's. We're going to jump a little bit far back here, a little bit further back than potentially need be, so we can try and get a better view of what all is going down. It looks like we might have had 2 separate incidents, so we're actually going to start off here with Sarah something. Just going to ride on board from the very beginning of the race with the mad dash down into turn number 1. Everyone having to check up just a little bit. 3 wide there, a little bit of contact with Madcap, so it looks like it actually might be an incident between Madcap and Sarah Saviron. Excuse me, Sarah something, not Sarah Saviron this season. Not, oh, okay, well, that you didn't even attempt to make the corner, so there's the first issue. There was no attempt made to actually make it through turn number 2 there. Let's take another look back. Let's ride on board here and just really get the onboard view of what all just went on here, because that was a little bit silly. You're not even attempting to make the corner. We're just on the grass now, driving straight through a field of... Yeah, okay. I believe we call that murder. There might be a little bit of something personal there between Sarah something and Madcap. Let's get a look from Madcap's perspective here, as he was unfortunately murdered without much remorse. Woody Wolf also going off the track and pretty much not making the corner whatsoever. Frankly, I'm surprised that Sarah Saviron was able to keep going and Madcap wasn't, but he might have some damage down on the left front tire where Sarah made the impact, so that might be why he's not able to keep going. But definitely unfortunate to see in the early goings of this race, because that is going to have both Madcap and Sarah something stuck down on pit lane, not even a lap into today's event. Lights still on the iRacing.com pace car. We're going to have to see if anyone decides to make the call to come down onto pit lane this time by. If not, we will be shortening this caution. Of course, with it only being 18 laps, we kind of need to have as many laps under green as possible here. Thirds and Ash still being scored as your race leaders. That's going to be Rally and Ame Sakaramori for row number 2. Most of the positions that we saw change were in the mid-pack. Kevin 11 gaining a couple of spots. Dwayne Day down a couple. As we make our way around this circuit here, and looks to me like nobody is really coming down pit lane. Okay, everyone's making the call to stay out, so in that case we will be shortening the caution here just so we can get back to racing. Only 2 laps in the books so far. And sure enough, let's go ahead and shorten this caution. And we will now be at the 1 to green here. So we will be going green flag racing next time by. Unfortunately, still got a 2-mile circuit to go around here before we actually do go racing. So how about we go back to the early goings of this race, take a look back at the initial green flag here, and the run up into turn number 1. Try and get some views from around the field. We'll go, actually, let's ride on board with D here. See what the view into turn number 1 is like from the tail end of the field. Everyone's just kind of jockeying for position. This corner is so wide that you can go into it 5 or 6 wide, but coming out of it, not quite so much. And of course, you can see those drivers already going wide through the corner. MF Beatus also going off track, and then chaos just kind of starts to ensue here down in the S's. MF Booty making contact again with who is that? That's Chris Cox. These two drivers just banging doors with each other literally time and time again, making contact with Sarkin there as well in the 901 machine. So really just chaos all throughout the first lap, but that's a little bit of an onboard view to see what these drivers are actually going through. And of course, at that point, the caution flag then did come out. Heading through the motocross section of the track, though, making our way, getting close to getting this thing restarted once again. And take a look down on the track map, see where all of these drivers currently are running at. 17 turns. Compressed down only into a 2-mile long track. Of course, going to be 15 to go when we go green flag racing next time by. Already 7 minutes into the night's event. The general idea is to try and keep these races within 30 minutes or in length, thereabouts at least. So these drivers already potentially getting into our time constraints a little bit there. That said, iRacing.com pace car is off. It goes down in pit lane before turn 17. So already we are taking the green here in a little bit of an accordion effect throughout the field. But once again, we are going to be making the mad dash down into turn number 1. And it looks like the outside line may be sleeping a little bit. The inside line's got a lot more momentum with them going down into turn number 1. Really wide for Ash there, and once again making contact with Rally as he turns down into the corner. 3 wide for the rest of the field. Sarkin getting banged around by Valnar and the 369 of Drop Table Roster, but everyone keeps it pointed relatively in the right direction. As again, we have a driver going way wide. That's the 818 of MS Beatus. Everyone manages to keep their cars collected and pointed generally in the right direction this time around, even if nobody's actually taking these corners correctly. Big contact there between the 369 and Valnar down there. He manages to jockey away around that 776 machine, but definitely was getting rough and tough to actually make it happen here. Third's currently leading the way as Valnar gets pushed off the track in the 776 machine. Currently looking at the battle all the way back for the 21st position. All of the chaos seems to be breaking out here down at the tail end of the field. Zoe back there as well, also shoving her way around that 919 of Sarkin. Or no, excuse me, that's the 901, excuse me, but he's immediately going to shove her back. These drivers really are elbows out here today at the Circuit of the Americas as more drivers going off the track. Chris Cox, oh, you know, both having trouble. Chris Cox looks like he is stopped on the speedway. No, he is still rolling. He is still good. But dang, what all is going out here on this speedway? There's more trouble as more drivers look completely off the track. We might actually have damage on Oh You Know there. Let's take a quick look back and see what the deal is, because it looks like that 420 machine had some smoke coming out of it. Maybe not, just seems like a little bit of issues stopping and starting, but everything all good there. Up in the front of the field, third still leads the way. Ash just behind in the 030 on the second. Memori up a position. Queen Ametrine also up into fourth. Rally is falling back 3 spots all the way back down to 6, just like that in the early goings of this one. Ash up there as well, still running in the top 5 in that number 11 machine. Of course, one of our Texas drivers out here in the field suggested the title of this race. I gotta say, I think Ash probably is the #1 Circuit of the Americas fan here. Speaking of Circuit of Americas fans here, heading through the affectionately named Mint Corner here, turn number 10. A little bit of an inside joke for some of the people competing here in this series. Unfortunately, I don't quite think that there is mint out there here in this Ottercar race. But you know what? We can dream. We can believe. A couple of drivers having off tracks further at the tail end of the field. Valnar, way off here. What are you doing there, Val? Besides losing darn near all your positions as he comes back onto the track right in front of Blake, that could have been dangerous. The tail end of the field starting to get spread out a little bit. A 4-second gap between Valnar and the car ahead of Zoe in that 666 entry. Of course, everyone getting stacked up in turn number 1. No contact here so far, but now we head down into the S's, where it seems like all of the drama has been so far in this event. Everyone is just doing the S's wrong, fundamentally. Right now, it looks like everyone's doing A-OK. Sarkin battling it out back there with Chris Cox once again. Chris Cox and Oh You Know both giving him trouble, and Sarkin spins around. He immediately gets it rolling again, but man, this is not Sark's race. It feels like that he has just been shoved out of the way by darn near every single driver on this track. Currently down only -1. He did qualify back pretty much at the tail end of the field. But definitely not going the way that Sark would like for it to so far this evening. Let's see if we can't take a look back, see what all went down to cause that incident here for the driver of the 901 machine. Already running way wide, manages to get back on the track in a little bit more of a timely manner, makes contact with the rear of the 420 of Oh You Know, goes a little bit off the track, makes contact with the 69. The 69 goes off and just enough to knock the car unstable to keep that 901 from being pointed in the right direction. But no caution necessary for that. He has the car pointed in the right direction. Everything seems to be A-OK for the 901 machine, minus the fact that he is now the last car still out on the racing surface, being scored back in the 24th position here. Further up in the mid-pack, battling it out here, that's Deeg in the Dasani 800 with the 88 of Ashley just to his inside. And once again, we're seeing drivers just go off the track in the S's. They're not even really trying. I mean, I know we talk a lot about track limits not being a thing for NASCAR drivers, but Ottercar drivers are taking this to a whole nother level. These track limits just simply do not matter. Nobody cares. We're going all over the place here this evening, and I mean, it seems to be working out, generally speaking. Single filed it out for Deeg and Ashley and Med here. Med only up +1 so far, currently running in the 12th position. Med was a driver that started out at the front of the field for last week's event back at the Summit Point Raceway. Looked like she had things pretty solidly wrapped up in the early goings of it, but just unfortunately involved in an incident later in the race, and not quite the run she was hoping here for event number 2 here at Circuit of the Americas. Further up in the field, Kevin 11 starting to get some pressure from behind from the 44 of limited time. Of course, that is the McDonald's McRib entry. Definitely great to see him out here on the track, because last week back at Summit Point, He was involved in a lap 1 incident and had to sit out the rest of the race. We never saw him come back on track for the entire rest of the event. So great to see limited time out here, being able to actually run some laps here in that 44 machine. Currently up +1 from where he qualified, running back in the 8th position, trailing behind Kevin 11 here. On the outside, looking in to try and potentially break his way into the top 5 here. Of course, 11 laps left to go. Still remains to see pit stops out of any of these drivers. Of course, Madcap and Sarah Something are both still on pit lane from the damages that they received in that lap 1 incident. But it looks like now mostly the field has started to single out, and as such, they've started to generally behave themselves, at least a little bit. Oh, you know, still battling it out with Chris Cox back here at the tail end of the field. They were side by side, but had to check up a little bit going through 7, 8, and 9, because that sequence of corners is just really messy. And of course, not a feature on the full Circuit of the Americas. That's just kind of a corner they shoehorned in to make this shortened layout actually functional. It's proved a little bit of a challenge for these drivers. In practice and qualifying, we saw a lot of drivers having an incident through those set of corners. Really, every single one of these sets of corners seems to be a corner where drivers struggle on in some capacity. Timing and scoring having a little bit of a struggle here as we get the big double high five from Barney the Flagman. 10 laps left to go here at the Circuit of the Americas. Call that about 26 more miles of competition roughly. And we have Lake slow on the inside here in that 330 machine. Not quite what's got her so slowed down here. And she seems to be running all right now, but she was definitely slowed down the front stretch coming across the start-finish line there, so definitely unusual to see here. Currently running in the 21st positions, Chris Cox just behind, starting to put the pressure down, and maybe a little bit of contact there between Chris Cox and Lake, but everyone's still keeping it pointed in the right direction as they head through that section of corners I was talking about, 7, 8, and 9. Just such a kind of awkward spot on the track. Heading down into the motorbike section once again though, and drivers are picking up the off tracks like no tomorrow. Even though the track limits are not enforced here on the AI like they're not really in NASCAR, they're still receiving the penalty points for Formula 1 style off tracks. So every driver in this field has at least 2 all the way up to, let's see here, in some cases 9 points of off-track penalties here. Of course, that won't have any sort of actual effect on them here in the race because they are AI drivers, but still, none of these drivers will be picking up the incident-free bonus point, that's for sure. Looking around the field though, every single driver has elected to make the call down to pit lane, and I'm curious to see where the pit strategies are going to go for these drivers. We might see some of them elect to take tires, some of them might not. That says it does look like third's going to be the first one out. Then it's going to be Ame Sakaramori picking up a couple of positions, coming back out on the track in second. Then it's going to be Ash in third now, followed by the other Ash back in fourth. Kevin 11 in fifth. Amatrine in sixth. Limited time, Dwayne Day up +2 as well. So the battle off of pit road shaking things up here a bit. Everyone's pit stop times varying anywhere from 11 seconds to up to 18. So it looks like a couple of these drivers elected to take tires while others just going purely on fuel here. With 9 laps left to go here, I don't know how much tires are going to play an effect. We're only 19 minutes, excuse me, into this event. Of course, we did have that initial caution, so that could, that would just make the tire wear even less important here. So those drivers electing to take tires, you know, I respect the tenacity. I like the varied pit strategies and taking risks to try and make things work. But I think in this particular instance, taking tires might not really be necessary. Later on the field, though, currently Sarkin and Oh You Know both at 8 points for off tracks. 7, nope, now 8 for Zoe as she goes over the red and white striped line. The only driver that is still at one off track point right now is Med. The only driver. I'm not quite sure how she's pulled that off, but she is still the only one with 1 point, and that's still 1 point too many to walk away with the incident-free bonus points. And of course, those bonus points will be carrying over into the playoffs, so really trying to pick up those bonus points is pretty dang important here. Rest of the field starting to get spread out just a bit. Closest battle on the speedway is the battle here between Deeg and Ashley. We've seen these two duking it out decent bit throughout the event here this evening. Going down into the S's, and believe it or not, actually everyone is actually behaving themselves in here for once in their lives. That seems to be a little bit of a struggle for these drivers, but everyone is actually respecting the boundaries of the racing circuit, and that is great to see. Ashley currently running back in the 13th position in that 88 machine, up +1 from where she qualified. On the outside, looking into a potential top 10 finish, has to figure out how to get around Pav, August, and Med. And then she will be up there inside of the top 10. With 8 laps left to go, we could still see anything happen here, potentially even a caution flag coming on the circuit, and that would really mess things up for some of these drivers. I think a caution flag would probably put a little bit of power back in the hands of those drivers that elected to take tires down on pit lane. Of course, that is a very big what if here. Thirds, though, running up in the front in that number 3 machine. She is pretty much uncontested right now. It is a full nearly 3 seconds back from thirds and Ame Sakaramori. Led every lap of this race so far in that Pathfinder number 3 machine. I mean, she hasn't won the race yet. There's still plenty of time left to go here. The thirds, of course, coming into these events, more interested in taking home a third place finish than a win, but hopefully a win would still be a decent consolation for her, as we have potentially trouble back in the back here. Jeremy Albertson off the track, getting passed by MF Beatus and nearly passed by Valnar as well. Another driver seemingly having a ton of trouble here through the S's, losing the spot to Valnar. They make contact, though, going down into 7, 8, and 9, and Albertson is going to get those spots back on Valnar. Not enough speed to try and get it back from MF Beatus, though. Albertson, despite running all the way back in 18th, still up +6. Getting inside the top 20 is still a feat here in Ottercar, with 26 drivers making up the field of competition here, which is a pretty big increase. Back in Ottercar Season 1, it was only, I believe, 22, so we have had an increase in drivers. A couple of drivers electing to drop out of the league in between the 2 seasons, so if we still had everyone on top of the new drivers, I think we would be breaking upwards of 30 cars here. Still a pretty competitive field out here at the Circuit of the Americas for, of course, the Shard of Texas 75. 6 laps left to go around the speedway. The clock is ticking for some of these drivers to try and get things done here. Look at the lap times last time by. Ash was actually the fastest car on the speedway, who is currently running back in the 3rd position right now with a 140.69. Thirds, our race leader, setting a 141.06, so almost half a second of lap time difference between our leader and the driver back in 3rd. Is trouble. MF Beatus and Bloody Wolf both getting loose through the corner. Jeremy Albertson making contact there almost spinning MFDs out. Not quite, but that could have been a very hairy situation. And once again, it's in the same section of corners there. 7, 8, and 9 seems to be where all of the trouble seems to be. I mean, there's plenty of off tracks around the circuit, but 7, 8, and 9 seems to be where these drivers are really making contact with each other, pushing each other off the track. Generally being a little bit argy-bargy, perhaps a little bit more than they need to be. Some drivers now up into the double digits of off-track points, though. Drop table roster, Zoe, Lake, Bluty, Wolf, oh, you know, all in the double digits now of off-track points being picked up here in today's event. Big high five up in the air, though, as thirds crosses the start-finish line 5 more times around this circuit before we crown ourselves a winner here at the Circuit of the Americas. Currently, it's a tie between Zoe and Lake, running in 20th and 21st for most off-track points. Both of them are sitting at 11 right now. Sark and just behind the two of them only at 9, which is a little bit surprising to see. So with how much trouble Sark has had with contact with other drivers, well, I say that and Sark goes off the track. He now picks up an additional off-track point, and that is going to be putting him into the double digits as well in the 901 entry. Valnar having a bit of trouble coming to a stop down in looks like turn 8. He gets it rolling once again, had to get the car refired, but that was a little bit bizarre to see. We got about 7 notifications that he went off track, all stacked on top of each other at the same time. So let's see if we can't see what happened to the drunk driver here in that 776. Goes off track once, off track twice. Oh dear, Val, that's not the racing line. The thought is there, but you didn't even gain any positions from that. If anything, you lost them, because now you're at the tail end of the field, back in 24th right now in that 776 from that little bit of a maneuver there. I'll tell you what, these drivers really are just kind of going all over the place here. They get the call that there's 5 laps to go, now 4 laps to go as thirds has crossed the line. And thirds, believe it or not, actually coming up on the blocker cars. I didn't quite think it was possible, but the blocker cars might actually play an effect here for these Ottercar AI racing drivers. Especially with her catching up to them through 7, 8, and 9, the entire section of corners we were talking about being so problematic. But of course, now heading down this straightaway, these blocker cars really aren't going to be too much. Well, I was going to say they're not going to be too much of an issue, with the blocker cars still staying out in front of the number 3. Sacramore is closing the gap as this blocker car is kind of relentless. It's not giving thirds any room to work with. And just like that, the gap has closed from about 3 seconds to 1.4 between thirds and Sacramore. And there's still 3 more blocker cars that thirds is going to have to get around here. Getting a bit of a view down from the observation tower that is set up through 14, 15 here. Thirds is currently, looks like about 15 or so seconds back from the blocker cars. Sacramore just behind. Sacramore getting slowed up by the blocker car as well. Same with Ash, slowing everything down for these drivers just a bit. But sure enough, thirds coming up onto the pack of blocker cars, heading down into turn number 1. Side by side, they make contact, but no real damage on any of these cars, it looks like. Now third's going to be having to go down into the S's with these blocker cars in the way. Are they going to pull out of the way? Not quite, and they're going to make contact again. I'll tell you what, these blocker cars doing their best to do their jobs, but thirds does not really care. She is putting the weight behind that number 3 machine to good use here. The gap has closed down now to 1.1 seconds between thirds and Ame, though. This race is not quite over with yet, and Ame could potentially take home the win just in the final couple of laps here. Less than a second now divides thirds and Ame Sakuramori. 0.8 of a second for the lead of the race. The blocker car is really pushing that number 2 around, though. Sakuramori getting pushed off the track, manages to get back on, but now the gap is back to a 1.6 second difference between our race leaders. That is going to be a tough gap to close with only 3 laps left in this race. Getting ready to be 2 to go once we round these final couple of corners. Further back, Ash and Ash duking it out for the 3rd position here. Ash with an E, the driver that took home the win last week at the Summit Point Raceway. As we might potentially have trouble back at the tail end of the field. Nope. Maybe. That 800 machine seems to be off the pace here. Like potentially they have damage. Let's see if we can't take a quick look back and see if we can't see what the deal is, because they're definitely way off the pace here. So, oh, well. Looks like Deeg found one of the strategically placed landmines on the speedway, and that's why that car is so far off the pace here. Looks like they're trying to do a full lap to bring it back around to pit lane, because, yeah, there's definitely something broken on the underside of that 800 machine, currently running back in the 24th position. 2 laps left to go here around the Circuit of the Americas for the Shard of Texas 75. Thirds now up to a 1.5 second lead. Thirds now also up to 10 off-track points, as the current off-track points leader is Drop Table Roster, who has now brought it up to 13 in his battle against Jeremy Albertson here. Both hit him and Jeremy Albertson up plus 10 positions right now. Both of them currently the biggest movers of today's event. Started back 24th, 25th, now running up in 14th and 15th as they try to make their way around the blocker cars here. White flag up in the air for our race leader of thirds, though. Deeg is going to be pulling that 800 down into pit lane, though. See if they can't get any of that damage repaired, but this late in the race, that's pretty much the end of the show for that number 800, so they will be rounding out the 24th position, still above Sarah Something and Madcap, who got race-ending damage from their lap 1 incident. Going back to the closest battle on the speedway here, the battle between Jeremy Albertson and Drop Table Rosters. They're still, uh-oh, that ain't good. What just happened to that blocker car? Someone just shunted the blocker without a single care in the world. Hold on, let's take a look back here. What is going on here? Riding down into turn number 1, there comes MF Vetus in the 818 machine, and sure enough, MF Vetus is just going to run through them without a care in the world here on the last lap. But as we go back up to the front of the field here, thirds leads the way, a 1.17 second gap from first to second, and only 3 corners left to go here at the Circuit of the Americas for the Shard of Texas 75. Heading down through turn 16, the gap still about 1.20 between thirds and Ame Sakuramori. Going through turn 17, heading back down the front stretch, it's going to be thirds who takes home the win here in the Shard of Texas 75. Following in behind her, Ame Sakuramori and Ash rounding out the podium. That's going to be Ash and Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, rounding out your top 5 here this evening. What a bizarre turn of events here at the Circuit of the Americas. And only round number 2 of our 12 weeks of competition, but sure enough, thirds in that number 3 machine takes home the win. Going to be the second driver locking themselves into the playoffs. which we will see kick off with round number 7 here in a couple of weeks. Still a long ways out left to go there. Of course, with every driver that takes home a win, they will be locking themselves into the playoffs. Then the remaining spots will just be organized by the championship standing. So even with these drivers that aren't taking home wins, Ame Sakuramori, Ash, and Queen Amatrine, getting these finishes inside the top 5 still really important because they're going to be the drivers filling out their remaining spots in the playoffs after the winners' spots are locked in. Of course, only 7 races into before the playoffs begin and 12 spots for drivers to be in it. So those last 5 spots will be organized by points from the drivers that have not locked themselves in. That said, though, as drivers make their way back to their pit stalls and get packed up and ready to head home for the evening, how about we take a look down and see how our unofficial race results shake out as it stands right now. The third is, of course, taking home the win for the Shelter for Strays team, with Ame back in second for the Hybrid Development team. That's going to be Ash and Ash back in third and fourth, followed by Queen and Matrine back in fifth. Sixth place going to go back to the Kevin 11 number 7, followed by Limited Time number 44 with their first top 20 finish, wanting to walk home with 7th here tonight. Dwayne Day going to be bringing home back in 8th, followed by Rally in 9th and Med in 10th. Let's go back to August, followed by Pav in 12th in the number 12 car, so it works out just a little bit. Ashley in 13th, going to be bringing it home back in the 88, followed by Jeremy Albertson back in 14th in the 985. 15th, going to go back to the 369 of Drop Table roster, followed by MF Beatus back in 16th, with Bloody Wolf in 17th and Zoe back in 18th. 19th going to go back to the 330 of Lake, followed by Sarkin in the 901, rounding out the top 20. Oh, you know, going to be bringing it home back in 21st, followed by Chris Cox in the 69, back in 22nd. 23rd going to go to the 776 of Valnar, followed by Deeg back in 24th. 25th can go back to Sarah Something in the 777 entry, with Madcap in the 38, rounding out the tail end of the field here this evening for the Shard of Texas number 75. That said, thank you all for coming out here to today's Ottercar AI Racing event. Next week, going to be heading over to the land down under to the Oran Park Raceway down in Sydney, Australia. That said, for now, thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week. Have a good evening, race fans.